I'm testing my voice here. I want to make sure everyone can hear me. My name is Johanna Gaskins, and I am your discussion leader today on sexual health, intimacy, desire, and safety. My goal for this lecture for you guys is just to give information. And I always say with a sensitive topic such as this one, where folks come from different backgrounds, experiences, and things like that, I'm hoping to share a little bit for everyone, whether you're super conservative or just completely out of the box. I'm hoping that you will get something out of this. I worked on this a long time. And I also had to check myself on how I felt about talking to people who look like my parents about this. So I had a couple of conversations with folks who are close to me in my circle because I wanted to validate this information. And so I did sequester the personal feelings of my mother, who has been widowed for the past 3 years after being married to my father for 55 years. And I also asked a dear friend who also helped to validate some of the information here. So I feel like what I'm about to share with you is sort of validated by a couple of different folks close to me. So I hope you'll get something out of it. If I see your face getting red, I'll just say breathe. Let me just figure how to click this thing here.
Down is forward.
Okay, wrong direction, sorry about that.
There you go.
Okay, so the discussion we're having, we're gonna talk about exploring how sexuality evolves as we age. I'm going to attempt to provide some insight. I already know you guys could probably teach me something, but provide the insight into maintaining a fulfilling and satisfying sex life in your senior years. I've still got to get there, so I'm picking up pointers. Creating sexual satisfying experiences. I am going to go over 6 key factors. I'm also taking some of this information from the English longitudinal study of aging called ELSA. And we're going to talk a little bit about the physiological changes that we just have to overcome. So I already explained the lecture, what I'm attempting to do for different kinds of folks, and whether you have a partnered experience or whether you are trying to experience sexual intimacy and release without a partner. So lesson 1, age should never be a barrier to experiencing pleasure and intimacy. So this is a very content-heavy slide. I don't want to read it all because what it really is saying, and I did this because there are people who want the slides, and I want to make sure they have content and not just me reading 4 bullet points that don't make sense to them when they're reading it without me explaining it to them. So I have a couple of these very heavily contented slides. So just to talk about what separates people with happy sex lives from those with less fulfilling ones. This is not to suggest that your life cannot be fulfilled without sexual intercourse or intimacy. But those who had been having sex were more likely to say they were happy with their sex lives. And people in a steady relationship were more likely to be having sex and be satisfied as people who reported being in good health. So this whole first part is really about folks who are probably on the lower end of the age spectrum. They were in their relationships, their bodies were feeling well, and they were basically saying, I'm feeling pretty good. But there were 27% of men and 17% of women who reported that having health conditions impaired some of their feelings about their sex lives. So this is a slide that basically is going over some of the things that women were saying and some of the things that men were saying, especially about finding it easier to talk to their regular partners about sex was really a big deal. So when I go over the 6 keys, I'm going to talk more about what brings couples together, what types of exercises you can do to make sure that you get the best out of your intimate experience. So this is another content-heavy one that talks about the societal pressures of men. So expecting older men to be able to participate in, these youthful ideas of virility. But look here, the same for women. Women have the same societal expectations to be able to, do backflips and things like that are really not appropriate. Whoever thinks you're going to be doing all this stuff is really, it's not. Anyway, I like this part right here. If anything, you're like a fine wine, getting better with age. So raise your glass to your unique journey and let any of the unnecessary pressures go. So now we've tackled societal expectations, and when you're dealing with yourself or your intimate partner, this is all very unique to everyone's experiences and needs, so we don't have to worry about what the rest of society is doing. Okay, so here's one of the quotes from a couple that talked about their ease. I did do little interviews just for you guys, so you would know real people are saying these things. I can only speak for my wife and I, but I think one of the biggest things not talked about is the drive for sex and physical enjoyment. To be desired, to be wanted, to have that feeling of giving and receiving, the physical as well as the emotional release never goes away. Who knew? When we're young, we don't want to believe that old, saggy humans still want sex, but we do. Physical attraction and satisfaction, communication and personal hygiene are still important even into our 70s. Another couple, there are certain things that have to be worked out. Yes, erectile dysfunction, extreme dryness, pain, limited positions. But it's great to be alive at a time when science has solved some of these issues with easy solutions, drugs and creams for both men and women, women and men, as well as physical exercise and therapies make it possible to enjoy sex at this late stage. I understand that there are many people at this age who have debilitating diseases or physical limitations that make it very difficult or even undesirable to have sex. And I certainly respect that, but there are also many older people, older than even us, who still want to have sex. I thought that was great. So, how do you create sexually satisfying experiences? And these are the 6 key factors I was talking about. Number 1, making sure you have good communication and consent. So if you're one of those quiet people, this is not the time to be quiet when you're getting ready to build your intimate relationships, whether you've been widowed and you're starting over and thinking about it, and you're like the strong, silent type, not the time for that. So communication and consent. Number 2, emotional connection. We'll talk about that. Number 3, exploring pleasure together. Number 4 is addressing your physical changes. 5 is sexual touch and intimacy. And 6 is mutual respect and support. So for communication, the foundation of any satisfying experience is to have open communication and consent. You definitely want to make sure you're on the same page about what you're doing, whether you're married or not married. I mean, I'm married, And sometimes I miss that kiss coming toward me because I didn't get a heads up it was coming. So he's kissing my hair because I'm looking that way. So it ruins the moment for him, I know. So we want to make sure we're communicating and that we're all on the same page about whether you're feeling amorous or not. So you're on the, so you can move forward together. And it's also crucial to be open, have open, honest conversation with your partner about your desires, boundaries, and any concerns that may arise. It's okay. Remember that consent is an ongoing process that requires active communication and respect for each other's boundaries. So a couple of strategies just for refreshing intimacy and sexual engagement, just in case after this lecture you're kind of feeling like you're getting ready to go and change something. 2 things: schedule intimate time. Don't just say, hey, I've just come from the sexual health lecture and I'm ready. Number 1, schedule intimate time. Number 2, there are different types of sex, different kinds of intimacy. So, sex does not need to be goal-oriented. You don't have to go in feeling like you're just going to be like the Superman or the Superwoman that's going to make it happen. We can wipe all of that out of our minds. But when you're not having sex and you want to be having sex and you're not talking about it, that's a problem. If you're the man and you're not wanting to have sex, but your wife is wanting to have sex, that's a problem. If you're a woman and you don't want to have sex and your husband wants to have sex or your mate wants to have sex and you don't, that's a problem. So we want to make sure that if there's a desire for sexuality or closeness or anything with a new partner or an existing one, we need to be talking about it. Just pretend. If you haven't talked about sex in a while in your marriage, we need to start talking about it. So, what feels good can change as we age. Sometimes that spot moves around and it's elusive, you can't find it anymore. You got to go exploring to find it again. That's okay. That erogenous zone can change as we age too. So, how do you start the conversation? You leave this sexual health lecture, those of you on Touchtown, you want to start the conversation with I. I miss you. I miss you, Pookie. You remember? I miss our closeness. I miss you too, Bunny. Whatever you call each other, you remember, bring it back up. So partners may not have been raised on communicating about sex. I understand we have a lot of conservative people, and you whispered if you were ready to have sex. Some of you took your knitting needle to bed, and that was supposed to be it. You didn't talk about much, but now that we're older, we've had children, everything's been laying dormant. It's okay to talk about it. I'm giving you permission. Also, there's safety in conversation because you understand each other. You understand what you want, what you don't want. You also understand what's important to the other person. If it's not important to you, consider that it might be important to the other person. And we want to make each other happy, so let's try to meet in the middle, is what I'm saying. So scheduling time. So you can consider maybe scheduling intimate time shouldn't be around when you've had a couple of outings and you're feeling like your energy has left you. You've been out all day at your 12 doctor's appointments. Maybe later that day is not the time to try to schedule intimate time together. Maybe the next day after a couple of drinks, and a good nap. And you can talk about maybe getting together. Also, if you're recovering from an acute illness, you've just really gotten over that pneumonia, now is not the time to be doing anything that's going to cause heavy breathing. No. Maybe after a urinary tract infection, you've been on antibiotics, not a good time to schedule. You lost your cat or dog. Your favorite character got killed off on your soap opera, and you're in an emotional state. Not a good time to try to schedule. And not a good time to schedule when you realize that your energy is at its lowest. You want that time where you're feeling good. You know, if you take a nap around 11, you're raring to go by 11:30. I say let's make this intimate time at 11:45. We can be done by 11:50. But we can talk about it. We can come to some agreement about the time. Knock on my door at 11:45 and I'll be ready. Also, stay open. So there are different kinds of sex. You pick the one that you like. Like I said, we have people from one end of the spectrum to the next. So consider the positions. I mean, none of us are as flexible as we used to be. Whether you are interested in penetration, whether you're interested in oral stimulation, if you're self-satisfying, whether you're interested in masturbation, whether you're interested in using sex tools or devices that will support or enhance the pleasure. Lots of different things to consider. Like I said, it's okay to stay open. So number 2, the emotional connection. So building strong emotional connection is essential for sexual satisfaction. So just take the time to connect with your partner on a deeper level by engaging in activities that will foster emotional intimacy, such as just spending quality time together, sitting with each other, holding hands, making eye contact, putting your hand on their knee. So, sharing thoughts and feelings and expressing affection. Emotional closeness enhances trust and strengthens the bond together. So if you know you're going in for the kill, do this stuff first. This is all the beginning. And maybe after a month of doing this, everybody will be ready. Exploring pleasure together. So each person is unique, and sexual desires can change over time. What I once enjoyed, I don't anymore. But honey, you always liked when I did this. Well, I don't like it anymore. Stop it. Have that open communication. You never want to say, but my wife used to like it when I did this. Don't say that. It's a new experience. Read the room. So it's important to explore the pleasures together and discover what brings satisfaction to both of you. I like this, you like that. How about we do a little of what you like, and then we can do a little of what I like. Except you want to do it for 2 seconds, and you want her to do it for 2 hours. No, not fair. So figure out what you like together, and make sure we get equal time. And be open to try new things. Experimenting with different techniques and embracing a sense of adventure to keep the spark in the relationship. A sense of adventure. I like that. So here's an exercise. I thought this was nice, and this is like to rev you up, you know? Rev you up. So the exercise is take turns touching each other in safe areas for 15 minutes. Alexa, put a timer on for 15 minutes. Don't stop until the timer goes off. So you schedule that quality time when your energy is the highest. You go to that quiet place that you've decided, and you would take turns touching. You tell your partner what feels good. This is not a goal-oriented situation where an orgasm is the expectation. This is only to focus on touch. That means that if you are the person doing the touching, then your goal is to feel your hand across their body. It is the other person who is being touched that can guide that process. Oh, I really like it when you touch behind my knee. Or I like it when you rub my earlobes. I really enjoy it when you touch wherever it is. That person is allowed to guide the process. The more you do this, the more you understand what the other person enjoys with touch. And you do that for 15 minutes. So the only caveats here is that you cannot have sex after that, and it's not about penetration. It's about just taking the time to touch. So number 4 is addressing physical changes. I found this to be an interesting one. So, of course, as we age, this brings about, different things during sexual satisfaction. Sometimes people can think that it's out of reach. I'm never going to feel the way I used to feel. I'll agree with that. I had children. I was like, I don't have any more ab strength. So, body changes. Just be patient and adapt and understand that it may be necessary to explore something different if what you once did you're not able to do. There are other things that can be done. So, explore different positions or techniques that accommodate any physical limitations or changes. And communication is still key here because you want to find out what works best for each other. I did read over this. This was a pretty lengthy study. It's called the ELSA study, the English longitudinal study of aging, and they looked at 7,000 men and women. The average age was 65, but they went up to age 85 for this study. I thought it was pretty interesting. But the research is pretty consistent here, which is why I really was happy to want to bring this much information to folks, whether they felt like it was about them or not. So the study compared those who abstained from partner sex next to those who made love at least twice a month or more, and they reported that they were happier. So for the women stated that it wasn't intercourse that made them happier, it was more kissing, cuddling, hugging, mutual body massage, even oral sex, but it didn't have anything to do with actual penetration. So, and this is another space where I did talk to another patient of mine, and she said she hadn't slept with anybody after her husband passed away for 7 years. And the first relationship she did have, where she felt like she had the best sex of her life, was just this. And she also told me that this gentleman, anytime he saw her hair fall in front of her eyes, that he would just pull her hair back, and she just thought that was so lovely and nice and thoughtful. I was like, wow, I need to get my husband to pull my hair back. I mean, who knows what might happen? So the men expressed a bit more nostalgia for intercourse, but otherwise they concurred with the women about the power of kissing and cuddling and just taking the time to touch each other. So the study goes on, and they had the age groups between 50 to 89 who talked about how the way that intercourse was not necessarily the contributor to their happiness or their sexual satisfaction. So the woman's main pleasure organ is not the vagina. This is going to be new information for some of you men. It was not necessary. I'm happy to bring it to you. I'm happy I'm the one to tell you. It's not the vagina, but the clitoris that is hiding right above that area. You learn to master that, you're going to have a satisfied woman for life. So, meanwhile, 95% of men achieved orgasm during intercourse, which is why they explained that's why that Elsa men thought more fondly of intercourse, because they were able to achieve it. Of course, if the men were having erection difficulties and the drugs were no longer helpful, they weren't able to twist those sheets like they used to, this did not contribute to their happiness. So the ELSA study came to the conclusion that folks were moving more away from intercourse to outer course, meaning they can still enjoy marvelous sex by focusing on kissing, hugging, cuddling, mutual body massage, and other types of play. And then we go to our solo sex. So in addition to partner sex, both the older men and older women also self-sexed regularly. They did not feel bad about it, but self-pleasure did not contribute significantly to their overall happiness for two reasons. Masturbation continues to be stigmatized, and elders in the study grew up at a time when solo sex was even more taboo than it is today. Only you guys can tell me if that's true. But even when people felt fine about masturbation, most rated self-sexting as less satisfying than when they were making love to their partner, whether that meant touching, intercourse, or penetration or not penetration. So apparently, a little help goes a long way from someone else. So at the end of the study, it suggested that older adults can figure out the sexual repertoire you enjoy comfortably, soloed, or partnered, and enjoy it regularly. Come down for meals, though. So number 5 of the key factors is sensual touch and intimacy. So sensual touch and extended foreplay plays a crucial role in sexual satisfaction. So take the time to engage in gentle caresses, to explore, and to create an essential environment. So when I talked about that exercise and scheduling time, you're really, like I said, you're revving all this up, because when you actually get that person that you've really been thinking about in the position that you want them, things are going to be explosive and enjoyable, hopefully. If it's not, keep trying. But remember, sexual pleasure extends beyond intercourse and encompasses various forms of touch, intimacy, and mutual respect. So number 6 is about mutual respect and support. So supporting each other's needs and desires is vital if you're going to have a satisfying sexual experience. Respect your partner's boundaries. Don't put your finger there. I don't like it. Don't put your finger there. Accept the feedback. So mutual support and understanding creates an environment of trust, which enhances the overall experience. So sexual well-being tools. Here we go. Where's my tools? What happened to my tools?
Did you accidentally hide those slides?
side is blacked out.
There's a hidden slide there.
There's a hidden slide.
Here, get it.
Help me find it. See, it's supposed to be that one.
Yeah, it's hidden.
Who hid it? I didn't hide it. There it is. Okay, good. And then just put from current.
Oops, did I press that?
There.
Here we go.
So, now, this is not a big deal slide. It's a pillow. This pillow is called the Prim. And the Prim pillow is designed by physical therapists, sexual health therapists for seniors. They created this pillow because of the tightness of the hips. Sometimes you've had a hip procedure or your anatomy changes, and this little pillow is supposed to help with that. Now, on this website, which is why I put it there, which I'm happy to send you some of my resources. But if you click on that website, there are other tools that if you're curious, you can go there and you can find some nice tools. Those tools can be used together, or if you're solo sexing, you can use them there. But I just wanted to show you this one because it's supposed to be a game changer, so I'm told. So in conclusion, remember, age should never be a limiting factor to potential pleasure in your sex, your pleasure and intimacy. So by fostering open communication, building emotional connection, exploring pleasure together, addressing physical changes, and nurturing mutual respect, you can create a satisfying and fulfilling sexual relationship with or without penetration. So always prioritize consent, respect, and understanding in your journey toward sexual satisfaction. Dr. Gaskins is always available for private consultation if you need to ask before you go jumping in there. Okay? And there's something missing. I'll tell you this too.
The second hidden slide,
Didn't I miss something about,
the last slide.
didn't I miss the safety part about STIs and protecting yourself? Well, that's the safety part. So, no, I remember it's supposed to be, actually, I remembered I was talking about protection against STIs. Oh, and look, and this one didn't show either.
Somebody hid the
The
slide.
slides had, the slides had a tag on it that says hidden, so it doesn't show up in the slideshow.
Yeah, I do want to be able to mention, yes. Is the next one about the protection with the ST? Yes, so those two.
Too much information.
Okay, so how can I tell you about physiological changes without naming a couple of physiological changes? So the couple that I encounter the most are related to erectile dysfunction and vulvovaginal atrophy. So these are the two that I treat the most. I am very big on the holistic view. I'm not going to talk about your blood pressure and your, the rash without asking, what is your intimate life like? And are there any barriers to you having a very satisfying intimate life? So if erectile dysfunction is what you're experiencing, there are things that can be done to support that. It doesn't have to be a pill, but I have a lot of tools in my toolkit. I usually ask the wife first. I don't want to go waking up dragons if the wife is not into it. So I usually get permission. But erectile dysfunction can decrease libido, it can decrease energy, you can have decreased energy levels. If you have decreased penile sensitivity or even clitoral sensitivity, you can't achieve orgasm. You must be engorged and sensitive in those regions. I'm not going to say nether regions, I got in trouble. Penis and clitoris. You must have engorgement, you must have some sensitivity there. That can be worked on. Also, osteoporosis can contribute to both dysfunctions in men and women. Decreased muscle mass and strength. You know, they have injections now that kind of pump up your muscles if you're interested in that. Dyspareunia is painful sex. So there are things that we can do to support that. If you have increased adiposities, that just means you're getting chubby. And maybe chubby parts are getting in the way. So we can work on that. And also for women, decreased orgasmic intensity or having no orgasm at all. So to maintain good sexual health, we want to make sure that you have access to accurate and comprehensive information. And I'll tell you, the research is there that providers are not talking to their older patients about intimacy and sex for the reasons that I told you about us not wanting to imagine our parents and grandparents doing it, but I'm over it. I want to feel like I'm going to be doing it when you're doing it. I want to hear some stories, even if it's not true, about how you shook the sheets. Because I'll tell my husband and tell him there's still hope for you yet, honey. We're in our 50s, so if it's going downhill from there, we're in trouble. So having knowledge about risks and consequences of unprotected sexual activity, such as STIs, is important. Just because you can't get pregnant doesn't mean that these long lives and experiences, I mean, you might have met somebody who was a real looker in their early lives and they might have picked up a few things they couldn't shake. Well, you don't want to pick it up. So you want to make sure that you protect yourself, and the use of condoms is important to make that happen. Sometimes, we're treating UTIs when the person really has an STI. Not that they can't have a UTI from other things, but sometimes you had a little, different sex partner and you picked up a little something, and we have to consider that. Okay, so now I think I hit everything, and if you'd like to buy Touchtown people,